Kirishima joins the crew at noon, sore and aching, but in a blissfully good mood. There's a breeze that's enough to help them along, so he raises the sails high. He hasn't been on deck an hour before Hatsume is calling down to him. "There's a boat, a little one," she shouts out. "3 men. We'll bring 'em up." Mina calls back. Kirishima scans the seas for them until he sees their boat. The men inside must either be dead or near death, one waving for their assistance with the strength he has left. Kirishima runs to get the medical kit and water. The kit is well restocked, but the supplies are chosen for the ailments of combat, so he hopes he's at least knowledgeable enough to ease their suffering. One man is dead when they pull him onto the boat. Kirishima presses his fingers against his neck, warm from the sun, but not from life. "No pulse," Kirishima says. "Pulse," Mina repeats. "You mentioned something like that a while back when the captain was dead." "I wasn't dead," Bakugou retorts, but Mina ignores him. He's been staring hard at the lifeless man. "Sometimes I can still hear his voice," Mina sighs. "Fuck," Bakugou mutters, clicking his tongue. "Put your fingers on your neck," Kirishima says, ignoring their antics. Mina does so, and Sero, who has just finished giving the other man some water, follows suit. "That bumping, that's your pulse. Your heart pumps your blood through your body. That's one of the places you can feel it." "Sero, my pulse is faster than yours," Mina taunts. "I'll beat you." "Ha, not likely." Kirishima looks to the dying men. "Maybe that can wait for later. Let's get them out of the sun." Captain, what do we do with this one?" Mina asks. "Toss him over?" Bakugou leans down. He takes the man's arm and pushes up his sleeve, looking for something. Kirishima catches a glimpse of the brand on his arm, the small P that marks pirates captured. Bakugou has one like that too. "No, we'll send him off," Bakugou says. "Use their rowboat." Kirishima stands back as the pirates prepare the funeral. He's never been to one, even on land. They wrap a scrap sail over his body, drenched in alcohol. Bakugou lights the sparks that sends the small boat into flames as they lower it into the water, letting the waves rock and carry it away, along with the black smoke and acrid smell. As Mina steers away, Kirishima sees Bakugou still looking on. "What did they say?" Bakugou asks, turning to Sero. "Government ship," Sero says. "They were escaping, but those Ida ships, they're damn fast." Bakugou nods. "Let's get to a port to drop them off." Bakugou looks so pensive the rest of the day, eyebrows so tightly knitted in thought that Kirishima doesn't want at first to break whatever train of thought he's focused on. Later, though, when the sun is setting and Kirishima catches Bakugou alone, he tests the waters of communication and asks him about his reservedness. He leans against the boat's railing, close enough that their shoulders brush. "That man," Kirishima starts, his voice careful and quiet. "Did you know him?" Bakugou nods. Kirishima nods too. "Prison." "Yeah," Bakugou says. Kirishima sees his eyebrows knit together. He's frustrated about something. Kirishima waits for him to speak, if he wants to. When he does talk, Kirishima can tell that no, he doesn't want to, but he's doing it for Kirishima's sake. He appreciates it, but he hates seeing the anger and pain hidden just beneath the surface of his words. "That was years ago, Eijirou," Bakugou says. "Fucking years, and it still has me all fucked up. It's pathetic. And there's no fucking use if I'm not the strongest." Kirishima doesn't know what to say. He's not sure what words, if any, will resonate, but he tries. I'm not an expert, but I don't think you should be upset about getting upset. I think that's normal, and it's probably better to let your emotions run their course than to try and ignore them. Bakugou turns around so his back is to the ocean.
Easier said than done.
Yes, I'd imagine. Kirishima agrees. I'm here, though. You aren't alone. It'll take them a couple of days off course to get to a port, so Kirishima wonders why the sailors won't just become part of the crew. But Mina informs him it's because of the treasure. Bakugou felt close to completing the map, so he probably didn't want too many new faces aboard anytime soon. The evening yields strong winds and light rain. Good for speed, but a pain to be on deck in. After at least an hour, Kirishima is drenched, and by the time he comes into Bakugou's quarters, he thinks there must be water in his bones. He shivers when he enters, and quickly rids himself of his sopping clothes. Bakugou is sitting at his desk as he usually is when he waits for Kirishima to finish his work. He's not writing or staring hard at the pages of a book like he normally is, though. He's staring blankly ahead, chin resting on his hand, his lips turned down in a slight frown. Are you okay, Captain? Kirishima asks before he shakes his hair out and pushes it out of his face.
Top tonight.
What?
Top.
Bakugou says, looking over. It takes a moment for his words to sink in. Kirishima feels confused. I didn't think that was something you were interested in. Kirishima says carefully. He sits on the bed and looks at Bakugou, still resting at his desk.
Well, I'm interested now.
Bakugou snips. He's on edge. Kirishima already feels uneasy about the request. Bakugou had been off since they pulled the men from the rowboat, more than one thing on his tired mind. Kirishima watches as Bakugou strips, mechanic and determined, making his way over. He pushes Kirishima down onto the bed, and in a daze, Kirishima lets him. Bakugou straddles him, immediately reaching for the lubricant from the bedside table. The position makes Kirishima blush, feeling almost dizzy from the suddenness and provocation. He opens the bottle and Kirishima bites his lip. If Bakugou wanted to do this, he was more than okay with it, but the pace he was taking was mission-like, not at all how Kirishima imagined it. And oh, he did imagine it. He'd thought many times about how he'd be slow and careful, showering him with love, kissing every part of him and taking his time. Bakugou dips his fingers into the lubricant and spreads his legs, reaching behind himself. I can do that. Kirishima offers softly, placing his hands on Bakugou's thighs. Can't I kiss you first? Bakugou grunts, looking away.
No, it's quicker like this.
Kirishima watches him as he furrows his brows and frowns. He rubs up and down his thighs. He feels his stomach twist. He wants this, but not like this. Bakugou stops for a moment, suddenly, and breathes in sharp. Kirishima thinks at first he's hurt himself, but he moves again. He's not even hard. Kirishima isn't either. He can't be when Bakugou is struggling, angry, upset. His eyes are either screwed shut or glaring away, like he's trying to prove himself. Bakugou heaves in a breath as soon as Kirishima realizes what he's trying to do, what he's trying to overcome. Kirishima pulls at his arms, making him stop, making him look at him. Wetness falls onto Kirishima's stomach. He's crying.
No!
Bakugou yells. He slams his fist onto the bed, making Kirishima jump.
No, why?
Katsuki. Kirishima whispers and pulls Bakugou down on top of him. He feels him curl up around him. Tears drop onto his shoulder, his neck, and Bakugou breathes heavy onto his skin, face nuzzled into his hair. He shivers. It scares Kirishima. He doesn't know what to do, how to react, how to comfort.
It's so stupid that I can't.
Bakugou's voice is ragged between his hiccups. Kirishima is almost frozen, seeing him so vulnerable and so dependent on him for help, yet he knows not how to give it. He told him he was here, but he doesn't even know what to do. He smooths his hands over Bakugou's shoulders and back, slips one hand into his hair to hold him close. He doesn't know what to say besides, "It's okay. We don't have to. It's okay."
Fuck.
Bakugou says, lifting his head. He rubs his arm over his face to rid his eyes of tears.
Fucking weak.
"Stop it," Kirishima says quickly, then a little softer. "Stop. Katsuki, we've been over this." Bakugou presses his palms into his eyes hard and tilts his head to the ceiling.
I fucking know.
Kirishima tries not to look at him like he pities him. It'd be an insult to Bakugou, but he can't help the worried turn of his eyebrows and the slight frown he can't get rid of. He silently urges Bakugou to get off of him, to climb beneath the covers. He does so reluctantly, scowling, disappointed in himself. "You don't have to prove yourself," Kirishima says quietly. Bakugou has his back turned away from him. He can practically touch the misguided shame he feels. "To yourself or to me?"
It bothers me.
Bakugou mutters. He sniffs.
It's not that I want to fucking get over it. I want it, and I can't.
Kirishima touches his shoulder when Bakugou inhales a rattling breath.
I always get what I want.
Bakugou says. Kirishima, though he can't see his face, can hear that he's gritting his teeth.
And it's fucking goddamn fucking stupid that I'm the only thing in the way of it.
Kirishima runs his fingers over Bakugou's shoulder lightly, hoping it's a soothing action. Kirishima settles next to him. He's about to put on the candlelight when he sees their unfinished 1001 Arabian Nights. He takes the book instead. "We haven't read in a while, Katsuki. Would you like to do that?" Bakugou is silent for a bit, then turns around to lay on his back.
Do whatever.
Kirishima smiles. He looks through the pages, trying to remember where they last left off. He dog-eared a page once, and Bakugou yelled at him for running the book. He laughs a little at the memory.
What's so funny?
Bakugou asks, body going rigid beside him. "The book," Kirishima says quickly. "I remembered how mad you got at me for folding the corners." Bakugou pauses, then snorts.
Idiot. Read.
Kirishima clears his throat and begins, hoping his voice helps calm him. He doesn't think it's anything special when he reads, but when Bakugou does, it enraptures him. His voice draws him in like nothing else, even when he halts and stumbles over the words. He can tell Bakugou isn't listening because he isn't asking any questions or reacting to the story. He keeps going through, though, and reads until Bakugou's head drops. Kirishima continues for a moment to make sure he won't wake him when he moves him. He smiles. There was a time where any shift he made throughout the night would make Bakugou tense in his sleep. He thinks he's still alert now to everything, but Kirishima has entered a safe space in Bakugou's mind. He's not a threat. He was never much of one to begin with to Bakugou, but now he can get through the night without opening a wary eye every time Kirishima's sleeping body decided to throw an arm across his captain's chest. He kisses Bakugou's cheek softly before he settles in. He runs his hand down his arm, to the inner part of his forearm where his skin is soft and hairless. He feels the little bump of the brand P, a scar that's both a matter of pride and a memory of fear. There's still so much about Bakugou that he doesn't know. He thinks, though, that he doesn't have to know all of it. He doesn't need every story. He doesn't need all the details. Kirishima feels himself grow in that moment. He knows just a couple of months ago he would have been so curious and pressing Bakugou for a story from the prison where he met the dead man. But he's become more self-aware here on this ship out in the middle of the ocean than he ever could have been surrounded by officials and lords and the like. He's still embarrassed about just how much he has to learn about the world, but Kirishima's heart pangs at the sudden rush of love and appreciation he has for the lot he's drawn in his life. Kirishima's heart pangs at the sudden rush of love and appreciation he has for this lot he's drawn in life. His relationship with Bakugou definitely started off rocky, and there are 100 of better ways things could have gone, he's sure. But to rest now beside him and hold him and love him and tell him he loves him. Kirishima smiles and presses his face into Bakugou's hair. Bakugou ties the knot tight on the scarf that covers Kirishima's hair.
Gotta be careful. There's gotta be government ships still lurking around.
How long will we stay? Kirishima reaches up to touch the scarf, but as usual, Bakugou gently slaps his hand away.
Don't touch.
He clicks his tongue.
Just a couple days. It's a long way to Ka, and I'd rather get there without needing another port. The less eyes that see us, the less known our journey.
Kirishima nods.
You and Eijirou get the medical supplies. I'll see you tonight.
Bakugou says. He's not looking at him directly. He's still embarrassed about the other night. Kirishima lifts his chin with his fingers and presses a gentle kiss to his lips. See you. Bakugou pauses and splutters, reddening to the very tips of his ears.
Shut up.
Kirishima giggles. He was getting the hang of this.
Shut up.
Bakugou says, trying not to laugh too.
Go do your job.
Kirishima salutes him jokingly and joins Eijirou for their supply run. I'm glad things are back to normal, Eijirou says as he falls into step beside him. Kirishima blushes, definitely still feeling awkward about causing such a fuss. Me too, Kirishima says. They walk in silence for a bit, Kirishima following Eijirou. He always seems to know exactly where to go. Hey, are you scared? Kirishima asks. About the place. Eijirou looks at him for a moment, contemplative. Not really. Kirishima frowns. From what I've read, it doesn't seem like an island at all that we're going to. No? Eijirou says. Kirishima shakes his head. It seems like hell. Eijirou laughs. You're starting to sound like Mina. Kirishima cracks a grin. I'm being serious, though. I haven't heard about any of the creatures Mina goes on about. Maybe they're just rumors from Endeavor's attack to keep people away, but I just can't believe it. Eijirou shrugs. I didn't believe a lot of that stuff either before I joined Bakugou's crew. Is that so? Kirishima murmurs, thinking hard. Besides, Hagakure put all sorts of protection magic on me. Eijirou grins wide. I think I'll be safe. Kirishima laughs. He supposes if he could brave all of Hagakure's oddities, a few sea monsters and the like should be nothing for Eijirou. Didn't she say that I'd cause you trouble? I think that was the whole thing. Eijirou waves his hand dismissively. Don't worry, I don't think she cursed you. Great. Kirishima grins. Have a little more faith in our captain, Eijirou says, clapping Kirishima on his shoulder. He'll take good care of us. Right. Kirishima nods, of course. He shouldn't show a lack of faith in him, especially now. His captain and the crew needed full support. Okay, Eijirou, what rich man's apothecary are we plundering today? Eijirou laughs. That's a true pirate. This way. It's not like their usual relaxation before a long voyage. There are too many ships and there's no clear beach to spend the time, so the crew takes the portside pubs and bars for what they are. Kirishima took the downtime to find a small bookstore and pick up a few novels for Bakugou. He would probably click his tongue at the way he spends his earnings on things he could just take, but despite it all, Kirishima still wants to think of himself as a bit of an honest man. He can tell the break has loosened Bakugou's stress as well, as he laughs easily and takes time to himself to simply lie on the deck in the sun. He's doing so now when Kirishima holds one of his new books over his face to cast a shadow over his eyes. Bakugou blinks them open, slow. Morning. Kirishima grins. Bakugou closes his eyes again, smile playing on his lips. You'll get burnt just lying there like that, Kirishima says, though he doesn't think it's true at this point. Bakugou's skin is well accustomed to the sun. Bakugou says.
Feels too good to move. Lie down with me.
Kirishima obliges. Bakugou reaches out immediately to grasp his hand.
What book did you get? You better not have spent your gold on him, sailor.
Bakugou mumbles.
Or will I have to be buying you your next meal again?
I think it's gentlemanly for you to pay, Kirishima teases.
Right, forgot I was that.
Bakugou says.
A gentleman.
There's a pause before they both start laughing, and Kirishima turns his head to look at Bakugou's precious, handsome face. I bought some nice books. My mother likes them, Kirishima says.
Yeah.
Kirishima huffs his affirmation. They're romantic. Bakugou clicks his tongue. Kirishima smiles. But you like them too, Bakugou.
Fuck off,
he says, no bite behind it. I'll read you one tonight, Kirishima says. He outstretches his free arm to the sky, the book in it casting a shadow over his own face now.
What one?
Romeo and Juliet, Kirishima says.
Fucking hate that story,
Bakugou says.
Thought it was a play.
It is, Kirishima says. But there's an author who adapted it.
Did they make it better?
Kirishima laughs. I kinda like the story though. Two people who aren't allowed to be together, wanting to be together anyways. I think it's nice. Bakugou turns to face Kirishima, eyes squinting in the sunlight.
They'd die though.
Kirishima pauses for a moment, looking at Bakugou's face, maybe a little sunburnt after all. Yeah.
They were stupid, and they just fucking met too.
Kirishima shrugs. Maybe they just wanted freedom. People do things when they're desperate, and in love. Bakugou squeezes his hand.
Fine, read it. Maybe I'll change my mind.
Kirishima smiles again. Maybe I will too.
Wait, that's it?
Bakugou asks. What do you mean? Kirishima says, happy to have moved on. His face is hot from the reading. Bakugou scoots closer to him in the bed and pulls the book towards him. He reads slowly. Kirishima watches his eyes flicker over the words, much like the candlelight flickering over his face, softening his features.
They don't fuck.
Kirishima closes his eyes and groans a little. It's implied.
From what I can tell, books always stop when it's getting to the good stuff.
Bakugou clicks his tongue. It's quite the habit, but Kirishima thinks he wouldn't be so Bakugou without it. Because it's indecent, Kirishima says. People can't publish such erotica.
Indecent.
Bakugou grins and scoffs. He pushes Kirishima's hand with the book in it to the bed, fingers gentle around his wrist.
I should write one. Want to know how I keep going?
Kirishima swallows as Bakugou climbs over his lap. His throat is suddenly very dry. How? Bakugou runs his fingers down Kirishima's jaw, eyes heavy on his lips.
Where'd it end? His fingers on her cheek, a kiss to the corner of her mouth.
Bakugou kisses him there. Kirishima can feel his eyelashes on his skin.
How about? He moves to her neck, breathes in the way she smells. Too pretty for all the work they've done that day.
Bakugou breathes in deep, his breath fanning over his goosebump skin as he talks.
He caresses her skin, till his hands fall beneath her shirt, and he cups her full, soft, and careful.
Indecent. Kirishima manages to stammer out. He's not sure why he feels so embarrassed now of all the times they've done this. Maybe it's Bakugou's voice, narrating as he grinds slowly in his lap and his fingertips brush over his chest.
Licks down her neck, hand traveling down from her breast to down further still.
I'm not made like that, Kirishima murmurs, blushing. Bakugou snorts.
Still got you hot, though.
He grinds down again, and Kirishima swallows hard at the feeling of Bakugou's ass pressing against his dick. Bakugou takes his hands. One was still clutching the book, how foolish, and settles them on his hips. He kisses Kirishima on the mouth, leaning into him more, and guiding his hands back further still to his ass. Even though he's in sleeping pants, Kirishima can feel the firmness of his muscle and the soft plush of everything else.
I want to try again,
Bakugou says, determined. Kirishima waits for the words to catch up to his sex-muddled brain. He thinks at first that Bakugou is on another power streak, another rush to prove his ability to overcome anything and everything, to be perfect, to live unaffected by the hauntings of his past. But Bakugou traces his fingers over Kirishima's jaw and glances down at his lips.
I want to.
It seems sudden, Kirishima says honestly. He wants to be sure. Bakugou kisses him. He fits their lips together slow and hums deep as he rubs his thumb beneath Kirishima's chin.
Please, Eijirou,
Bakugou says. There's hardly any light coming from the porthole, the bad weather still persisting, but Kirishima does his best to look Bakugou in the eyes, to search for fear and uncertainty. Instead, all he sees is love. Kirishima's heart flutters and he pulls him back down into a kiss, waking up more with every touch Bakugou presses to his body. He sighs when Bakugou kisses him deep, his tongue flicking inside his mouth and making Kirishima hard and nervous. He wasn't as skilled at initiating things as Bakugou was. He didn't know how to finger him, how to make him feel good.
What's wrong?
Bakugou asks. He's so perceptive sometimes it's eerie. I'm afraid I won't make it good for you, Kirishima says.
Stop thinking about it. It's fine because it's you.
Kirishima smiles up at him, trying to hide his excitement. He tucks Bakugou's hair behind his ear, though the shorter strands just fall out again. He wraps his arm around his middle and pulls him in. He tucks his head under Bakugou's chin in a hug, and Bakugou snorts, fingers still in his hair. Kirishima tilts his head up and kisses him, kisses over his jaw and down his neck. He tries to mimic the wet way Bakugou drags his tongue over his skin, as embarrassed as he feels for being so obvious. Bakugou hums, though, either from encouragement or from the sensation, but Kirishima drinks it up either way. He hesitates at Bakugou's chest, but Bakugou guides him in, hand tangled in his hair. Kirishima kisses slow until he slots his mouth over a nipple, circling his tongue around and sucking hard, feeling the bud harden. Bakugo's chest is cushioned and toned, and Kirishima bites into it ever so softly. He's already hard, and Bakugo is getting there too. "Do you want to lie on your back?" Kirishima asks.
Okay.
Bakugo says. He climbs off of Kirishima and lies down. Kirishima breathes deep, nervous, and kisses him again. He has his hands in his hair and cupping his jaw. He feels Bakugo sigh as he lets his hands roam down over his stomach to play with his dick. He moves down Bakugo's body, kissing and licking and touching, his hands rubbing softly at the insides of his thighs, inching higher and higher. He kisses his bullet wound and sits upright. He hesitates, but reaches for the lubricant. He doesn't miss Bakugo's sharp inhale. "We don't have to," Kirishima says, soothing his hands over Bakugo's thighs. They're smooth beneath his calloused hands, his hair thinning out to nothingness above his knees.
"Keep going,"
Bakugo says. Kirishima talks as he looks down at Bakugo, his hard cock resting against his stomach and how his own thighs look, with Bakugo's legs resting just atop of them, his dick hanging heavy between. "You know, Captain, don't be mad, but I've always thought you were beautiful."
"Huh?"
Bakugo says, then laughs. Kirishima laughs too. "I'm serious." Kirishima smiles. "You're so handsome."
"Nah, fuck off,"
Bakugo says, but he's still grinning. Kirishima shrugs and dips his fingers into the lube. He warms it up well with his fingers, eyeing the puckered ring of Bakugo's hole. He holds his breath as he trails his fingers down his balls, pressing in just beneath them, feeling and teasing around the muscle. Bakugo is tense and his head turns to the side, smile gone. "Are you okay?" Kirishima asks gently. Bakugo nods his head. "Can I press inside?" Kirishima asks. Bakugo nods again. Kirishima bites his lip and pushes one finger in. The tightness is incredible, and the heat makes him bite his lip. He flits his eyes up to Bakugo, who has an arm thrown over his face. Kirishima reaches up and touches it. "Katsuki, I won't know if you're hurting if I can't see your face." Bakugo pulls his arm away, but won't look at Kirishima. Kirishima understands his embarrassment. He feels around inside him and leans down to lick the underside of his balls, up his shaft and over his head. He slips his mouth around him and he adds another finger, looking up to see Bakugo's face, looking more relaxed now with Kirishima's lips around his cock. He knows when Bakugo fingers, he can't keep quiet. It feels so good he has to make noise. He has to shift his hips and whine, but Bakugo is quiet, cheeks just a little flushed. Kirishima pulls off of him with a flick of his tongue to his head and pushes his fingers deeper inside. Looking for. Bakugo's legs jerk open a little and he huffs sharp. Kirishima's eyes shoot up to his face to see him bite his lip. "Is it there?" Kirishima asks, pressing his fingers against it. He stares at Bakugo as he clenches his jaw tight and breathes out through his nose, his cheeks reddening. Kirishima stares at him, as though he's hypnotized by how good he looks with flushed cheeks and sweat running down his temples. "Am I doing it right? Does it feel good?" Bakugo groans and lets his head fall back onto the pillows. It sends a shiver through Kirishima's spine and makes his dick twitch. The sudden attention makes him realize how hard he is. He scissors his fingers and adds a third with more lubricant, teasing up and down Bakugo's shaft lightly with his fingers. Katsuki," Kirishima says, embarrassed. "How do I know when you're ready? What do you think? Can you tell me?"
"You talk so goddamn much,"
Bakugo mutters, but he's panting slightly, his hair sticking to his forehead with sweat. He takes Kirishima's breath away.
"It's fine now."
Kirishima's stomach flips. He withdraws his fingers and reaches for the lube. but Bakugou is sitting up and leaning forward too. He takes the bottle and smears it onto his fingers, then runs them over Kirishima's cock. Kirishima sighs at the feeling, finally some release after not touching himself at all. Katsuki, I might not last long, Kirishima admits. Bakugou snorts. Can I kiss you again? Kirishima asks. God, I want to kiss you. Bakugou nods, and he closes his eyes as Kirishima slots their mouths together and pushes him back down onto the bed. He pours all of his love into it. He cups his jaw and holds him tight. Kirishima gasps when their dicks rub together between them, having forgotten again his hardness while he's enraptured with his love. He kisses to calm his nerves, to focus on the feeling of his lips against his own, his hands tugging lightly on the ends of his hair. He kisses his jaw and his neck, and breathes out the breath he was holding when he decides to position himself against Bakugou's hole. Bakugou breathes out too, turning his face to the side and closing his eyes. Kirishima looks down at where they're about to connect, watches as he presses inside of him, slow and wet and careful, biting his lip at the tight heat. It's incredible. So soft and slick from lube, sucking him in. He flicks his eyes up to Bakugou as he pushes himself to the hilt. He doesn't look like he's hurting. Their eyes meet and his cheeks are flushed red. He has his legs spread open wide. Kirishima swallows hard. He looks seductive when he licks his lips and shifts his hips. He goes tight around Kirishima's dick, and he remembers he should be moving. He goes slow, trying to hit that place inside of him that made him feel good. He doesn't realize he's concentrating hard until Bakugou reaches up his hands and pulls him down again, wrapping his legs around his waist. Kirishima can't help but groan, pressing his face into Bakugou's neck and thrusting quick inside. I want to hear you, Kirishima whispers. Please. I want to know it feels good. Bakugou moves his hand away from his mouth reluctantly. Kirishima kisses him. He brings his knee up so he can go deeper, and it does something for Bakugou because he moans, soft and unguarded. It almost makes Kirishima come on the spot. He sounds so good. As much as he wants it to last, he feels the pressure build and pleasure spark. He manages to clumsily get a hand around Bakugou's cock and pump him, off time to his thrust, but he thinks it's doing the job. He goes to kiss him again and sees tears. It makes him stutter his hips for the quick second he thinks Bakugou is in pain, but he's not. He's blinking fast through his tears and pushing his hips into Kirishima's erratic thrusts, breath coming out in quiet whines and moans, shivering on his cock. Kirishima can see, can hear, can feel that he feels good. Kirishima wipes his tears as best he can and pulls their bodies as flush together as he can, quickly, his orgasm building and fleeting on the edge of arrival. God, Katsuki. Kirishima breathes hot against his neck. He wants to kiss him, but he can't do too many things at once without fumbling over himself, so he settles for pressing his lips against his neck as he mumbles and babbles his praise. I love you, God. I'm so in love with you, Katsuki. He feels Bakugou tighten when he comes, spilling between them and over his hand. Kirishima pulls out quick before he comes, holding himself upright over Bakugou's form as he does so, moaning unabashed, the pleasure so different from what he's been used to. He collapses onto their mess, peppering Bakugou with kisses, holding his face, feeling the rise and fall of Bakugou's chest beneath him. I love you, Kirishima whispers, tucking Bakugou's hair behind his ears. He takes his face, sweaty and relaxed. Sorry, I'm not very good at it. Bakugou laughs a little, and it brightens Kirishima's heart. He can't help but grin wide.
Shut up. You're good.
Kirishima wants to thank him for trusting him, but he thinks it would ruin the moment. He wants it to be like this, just him and Bakugou. He wants this to last forever, this love, this trust, this life. He sighs and sits up, aiming to clean them off a bit before collapsing back onto the bed to sleep. He blushes as he cleans Bakugou off, their cum mixed together. The inside of his thighs are still wet and it makes his dick twitch. When they're settled again, with Kirishima's back against Bakugou's chest, his arms slung comfortably across him, Bakugou kisses his nape and breathes out, sending a shiver across his skin.
Good night, love. I love you.
Kirishima places his hand over Bakugou's and shifts back to him. They're as close as they can be, and he wishes it were possible to be totally enveloped by him, the way he feels from all the love. He wants to crawl into his skin and settle into his bones. He wants Bakugou to surround his heart, his soul, every piece of him. He thinks he might burst from all the love he holds for him. You too, he whispers, kissing the back of Bakugou's hand. He tangles his legs between his and rests comfortably into his embrace, welcoming the weight and inviting sleep to grace him once again.